Hey guys, it's been a while since I've talked about my MacBook Pro, and yet here we are. This is my long-term review of the MacBook Pro M4. I say long-term because, well, it's been 8 months since I got it, and I think that's more than enough time to give you an honest take on how it's been holding up. So sit back, grab a cup of coffee, like I did, and let's dive into what it's really like using the MacBook Pro M4 every day for 8 months straight. If you've been following the channel since I got this machine months ago, you probably know this is the base model of the MacBook Pro M4, 16-inch version. No extra RAM, no bumped up CPU, no nano texture screen, just the standard, straight up MacBook Pro M4. I went with a silver finish this time since I had space black last year and just wanted a bit of a change. Also, silver gives off more of the classic MacBook vibe, which I personally like. As for fingerprints or scratches, honestly, I've never been the kind to complain about this stuff. But yeah, when I use it on the go, especially in brighter settings, the fingerprints do show up more. That's one reason why I think going with the lighter silver color was a good call. By the way, if any of you are using the nano texture version, drop a comment below, especially if you're like me and use the laptop not just in a dark room, but also in cafes or outdoors with lots of natural light. I'm generally curious if you've noticed a real difference. Since I've never used the nano texture screen, I honestly don't even know what I'm missing. And to be fair, for the amount of time I actually use this laptop outside, I don't think it's a must-have feature for me. Also, just to mention, I don't have the 14-inch model on hand to compare right now, so I can tell you if the 16-inch is more or less handy. But stick around until the end of the video because I'll share my final thoughts on screen size. I used to own a 13-inch MacBook Pro, not the 14 but still smaller than this, so I'll touch on the comparison a bit later. Okay, I've gotta be honest with you guys. Carrying this laptop in my backpack during long travels, especially for several hours straight, is a bit of a pain in the butt. Now, I do love the fact that I don't really need an external monitor, even for video editing, watching movies, or even gaming sometimes. The screen is big and beautiful, but yeah, this thing is heavy. And when you add in my camera gear, lenses, tripod, all that, which definitely aren't light either, I really start to feel it in my shoulder after a while. In those moments I seriously wish I had a lighter laptop. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the older MacBooks, especially the ones before they brought back the separate MagSafe charging port, were thinner and lighter overall, so yeah, I have mixed feelings. I wouldn't recommend the 16-inch model for everyone. If you're constantly on the move like me and carrying extra gear, it's something to think about. If you're a full-time video editor or someone who watches a lot of movies while traveling or staying in hotels, then yeah, the 16-inch makes more sense. But in my case, looking back, I probably should have gone for the 14-inch version instead. Let's talk about the battery. So 89%, that's what I had when I was filming those clips, just running off USB-C power from my external monitor at home, and honestly, I had zero worries about getting things done with that much battery. It's kind of insane how long this battery lasts. I've watched a ton of reviews, both long-term and short-term review, and not a single person seems to complain about battery life on these M4 MacBooks. And I totally get why. So yeah, even here in 2025, I'd still recommend this version, 100%. And if you go for the 16-inch like I did, you might actually get slightly better battery life than the 14-inch, just because there is more space for a bigger battery. Sure, you might lose a couple hours here or there depending on use, but either way, you're still getting a beast of a machine when it comes to battery. That's one thing I definitely don't regret about choosing this MacBook Pro M4. Now let's talk about display, brightness especially. It's seriously improved compared to older generations. I get more than enough brightness for anything I do, whether I'm reading in light or dark mode, working in brighter environments, or using the laptop at home in a dark room. I also use an app called Lunar Pro. I actually bought a license, and it gives me much more control over the display. You can adjust brightness on a hardware level, set automatic dimming based on your location or ambient light, even sync it with an external monitor, and more super useful stuff. There is also a blackout mode which I love. It lets me completely shut off my MacBook's built-in display without actually turning off the system. Handy when I'm working only on the external monitor. Now, of course, higher brightness does affect battery life, but unless you're spending an entire day working under direct sunlight at the beach, which isn't exactly my situation, I don't think you'll ever feel like the screen isn't bright enough. For coding, editing, or really anything else, the brightness is more than solid. Let's talk about SSD space and storage. It's been way more than I expected. I was actually a bit nervous about getting the base 512GB model, but it turned out fine, mainly because I use external storage like my NAS, where I offload pretty much everything. That includes large media files like UHD movies, tons of drone footage, camera clips, project files, you name it. So if you're someone who codes and occasionally creates content or shoots videos for YouTube, 512GB is totally manageable, as long as you stay organized. But if you're the type who never deletes anything and rarely cleans your local SSD, you might want to consider upgrading the internal storage or invest in a good NAS or external SSD. It really depends on your workflow. Okay, RAM. Probably the most anticipated part of this review. Now, just to be clear, the base model for the 16-inch MacBook Pro M4 actually starts at 24GB of RAM, not 16, which is great. And honestly, 24GB has been perfect for me. I couldn't be happier with it. My workflow usually includes a lot of parallel tasks, coding, editing videos, running AI models, Docker containers, sometimes virtualization. And even with all that, I rarely see memory usage go over 20GB. So it's clear the system handles multitasking really well. Now here's something worth explaining. macOS tends to use available RAM proactively, so it might look like it's using a lot, but that's because it's caching and buffering things to keep apps launching fast and the system feeling smooth. It's not a bad thing, it's actually a sign that OS is working efficiently. When I bought this model, I was a little concerned, not because 24GB isn't enough today, but because with AI tools becoming more resource hungry, I was wondering if it might become a bottleneck in the future. But so far, no issues at all. The Mac handles it like a champ. I honestly can't even remember the last time I heard the fan on this laptop. Since I bought it, maybe once or twice it spun up a bit, but that's it. And that alone makes a huge difference compared to older laptops with Intel chips or previous gen CPUs that needed constant cooling because they'd get so hot. Even while filming those clips you've seen, running multiple processes at once, I couldn't get the fan to spin up. I even checked the system values and RPMs and nothing. Silent. Crazy, right? It just shows how efficient the M4 chip is. Thermals are super well managed, and it never feels like the machine is under stress, even when you're pushing it with heavier workflows. Guys, believe me, getting a MacBook Pro is seriously one of the best investments you can make. And I know it might sound like I'm sponsoring this video, but nope, that's definitely not happening, especially with how insanely popular this brand already is. But here's the truth. Having a machine like this has become crucial in today's workflows. Whether you're working with AI, coding, video or photo editing, engineering, music production, you name it, the MacBook, especially with how well it fits into the Apple ecosystem, just feels essential now. There's honestly not much to complain about. Performance, great. Battery, amazing. Color, display, storage, all on point. But what impresses me most is how Apple actually seems to listen to user feedback. And this machine feels like proof of that. Alright, that's it for this 8-month long-term review of the MacBook Pro M4. Thanks for sticking around. Hit the like button if this was helpful. Drop a comment if you have any questions or if you're using a different configuration. I always read them. And of course, stay tuned for the next review.